The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.
TAV Georgia, a sole operator of Tbilisi and Batumi International Airport and a subsidiary of TAV Airport Holding, expanded the departure terminal at the Tbilisi International Airport through a large-scale project with a total value of 2 million lari. As European Union member states, of course, we are not taking sides. We are not supporting any particular political force. But what we really care about is free and fair elections as well as a free and fair electoral process. This is step number 2 of the 9 steps that Georgia has been given in December last year, stated EU Ambassador to Georgia, Paul Hrchinsky. The ambassador expressed appreciation for the Georgian government's request for a long-term observation mission from OSCE ODIHR to oversee the elections. He emphasized the importance of conducting electoral campaigns to the highest international standards. According to the data of the World Bank, the National Statistical System of Georgia ranks 16th globally. According to the latest data of the World Bank, which refers to 2022, the first 3 countries in the world in terms of the development of the National Statistics System are Finland, Norway, and Canada. The statistics systems of these countries were scored with 93 points out of 100. Georgia holds the 16th position with a score of 90.7 points, surpassing 15 EU countries: Austria, Estonia, Portugal, Slovakia, Belgium, Latvia, Greece, Lithuania, Hungary, Luxembourg, Cyprus, Romania, Bulgaria, Croatia, and Malta. Moreover, our country ranks 14th on the list of the top European countries and is the leader in the region, ranking 1st place. Natia Turnava, the acting president of the Georgian National Bank, participated in the Sturgeon Capital Georgia Investment Summit, an annual event of international significance supporting promising digital companies and investing in innovative ideas. In her speech, Natia Turnava highlighted one of the National Bank's primary tasks to promote innovations in the financial sector. She emphasized the bank's commitment to developing financial technologies and introducing new initiatives to enhance the competitive environment. Among the initiatives mentioned were open banking, a regulation laboratory, and the introduction of a central bank digital currency, CBDC. This is The Checkpoints. I'm Elena Guangilashvili, author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to sum up Business and Economics Week for you. The Georgian Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development, Levan Davitashvili, highlighted the significance of foreign direct investments for economic growth during the Georgia-Saudi Arabia Business Forum in Tbilisi. The minister mentioned that over the past 3 years, Georgia maintained foreign investments at a high level, averaging around $2 billion, which is notable concerning GDP. Davitashvili highlighted the goal of attracting high-quality direct investments from different countries to ensure economic growth and enhance the country's economic structure. Davitashvili identified Saudi Arabia as an important potential partner representing the largest economy in the Persian Gulf. The Georgia-Saudi Arabia Business Forum was opened in Tbilisi. The forum was attended by representatives of the Georgian government and business circles. Before the forum, the executive director of the Georgian Business Association, Levan Vebkhwadze, made a statement noting that if an agreement on free trade between Georgia and Saudi Arabia is signed, it will be a very good signal for investors as well as for tourism companies. This means that Georgia will become even more important for companies from Saudi Arabia in terms of investments, he said. To the question of whether it is possible to attract investments in the energy sector and whether renewable energies have potential, Levan Vebkhwadze answered, "If you ask me what we can offer today, this is the transport and logistics sector. This is a sector where it is important to attract investments and introduce modern approaches, which we lack today. The second is energy. On the one hand, we have small projects, but there are large investment projects in the row where the involvement of local investors may not be sufficient. Here, we need to attract a lot of financial resources and flows, and Saudi Arabia is one of the important sources," Levan Vebkhwadze added. Mikhail Khidureli, the CEO of Enterprise Georgia, the state agency promoting entrepreneurship, investment and exports, on Thursday said the main domestic sectors that saw Saudi Arabian investments coincide with the agency's priorities. These are real estate, hospitality, transport, energy, with a growing interest in Georgia, said Khidureli, who made a presentation about the country's investment climate and opportunities at the ongoing Georgian-Saudi Investment Forum in Tbilisi. He added investments from Saudi Arabia to Georgia totaling 100 million USD, which he said was a low number for a country with such investment potential. About 300 visitors attended the forum, including officials from governmental delegations of both countries as well as business representatives. Bank of Georgia Group PLC, the company or the group, notes the recent media speculation regarding a potential transaction involving Ameria Bank CJSC as a leading bank in Armenia, and confirms that it is in advanced discussions with Ameria Bank and its current shareholders regarding its potential acquisition. This transaction is intended to be financed with the group's surplus capital without changing the company's dividend and capital distribution policy. The transaction, if it proceeds, will constitute a Class 1 transaction under the UK FCA's listing rules. The company will update shareholders as to progress made in relation to the acquisition as and when appropriate. There can be no certainty that a transaction will be signed, nor if signed, concluded. What else was new in business this week? On to Natia Taktakishvili.
Toyota Center Tegeta officially opened renovated showroom in University Street. The new showroom is fully adapted to the comfort and requirements of the customer. The interior of the showroom was renovated according to Toyota's international guidelines. The showroom is located on the area of 800 square meters, which includes a service center along with the exhibition space. Company Gravita carried out reconstruction works for several months. With the new concept showroom, we are the first representative of Toyota throughout the region. We updated the interior and added new service platforms. We have a wide selection of automobiles. This means that all the needs and services related to the car are gathered in one place, Mariam Meliashvili, General Director of Toyota Center Tegeta, declared. Along with the opening of a new showroom, Toyota Center Tegeta has represented new Toyota CHR to the public in the exhibition space. The second generation CHR has been updated both visually and functionally. The new model only works on a hybrid engine. The new service center has a parking lot outside the showroom that can accommodate up to 50 cars. Toyota Center Tegeta has been operating on the Georgian market since 2014. The company is monobrand and its services are completely focused on Toyota cars. Ice cream producing company Luca Polare opened its second branch in Baku. The investment amounts to 150,000 USD. According to the company, Luca Polare plans to open several more branches in Baku this season. We continue to develop outside of Georgia. At this stage, we have opened a branch of different concepts in Baku, which is distinguished both by design and variety of products. The branch has a children's space, which is also a novelty. In the current season, we are planning to open several more branches in Baku, says the director of the company, Tete Bakari. Luca Polare went beyond the borders of Georgia in summer 2023 and opened the first branch in Baku in August, for which it invested more than 200,000 USD. According to the company, Luca Polare Ice Cream Coffee chain offers its customers about 100 types of ice cream and exclusive coffee. The brand has been operating for 15 years and currently has 16 branches in Tbilisi, 5 in Batumi, 1 in Kabulati, Kutaisi, Rustami, and 2 branches in Azerbaijan. Volvo Car Georgia finished 2023 with great success. The company had a 25% increase and sold 200 vehicles in total. The company starts 2024 with good news as well. Volvo EX30 will appear on the Georgian market late in June, which means that the car will be available for Georgian customers very soon. Maka Sahwadze, director of Volvo Car Georgia, declares that Volvo EX30 is a compact car which will be presented in the market at a very affordable price. The starting price of the car amounts to 39,000 euros. It should be noted that Volvo EX30 is the fastest car in the history of the company. Volvo Car Caucasus, part of Tegeta Cars, is the official importer importer of Swedish brand in the region. The company is an exclusive supplier of premium cars in Georgia, Uzbekistan, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. Kazakhstan was added to this destination last year. The company will actively work on the market utilization and development in 2024. Makak Obusidze, the founder of Click Holding, declares that 2023 was a special year for Click events. The demand for Click event services was quite high in 2023 compared to the previous year. It can be said that over 30% growth was observed as the business took a breeze after the pandemic. More corporate events, conferences were held. We even had 3 or 4 events in a day. Also, we had orders from private events, and there was a growing demand from foreigners as well, said Makak Obusidze. Along with the increase in demand, the prices of Click event services also increased, and the growth made up over 15% compared to the previous year. Company Click Events is operating under the umbrella of Click Holding, which includes the following companies: Click Events, Click Tour, Click Consulting, Peer, Click Studio, Professional Photo and Video Production. Caucasus Auto Import, which operates in several countries along Georgia, declares that 2023 was an outstanding year for the company. Ezga Halomidze, brand manager of the company, told TV program Business Evening, Caucasus Auto Import exported more than 50,000 cars from USA to Georgia and opened a regional office in Kazakhstan, one of the strategic exporting markets of Georgia. Last year was quite good for Caucasus Auto Import, during which we took many effective steps. The most important news is that we have entered Kazakhstan market. We would like them to offer the services that we receive from the USA, which includes a comfortable auction and full information. Last year, we brought more than 50,000 cars from America to Georgia, which is a record high number, Halomidze, brand manager of Caucasus Auto Import, said in Business Evening. Last year, cars worth over $2 billion we exported from Georgia, which was a record figure and amounts to 7% of Georgia's GDP. As a result, in recent years, Georgia has become a hub of automobile exports. Dried fruit producing enterprise Frutera, located in Kareli municipality, plans to increase production by 200% this year. David Gelutashvili, the founder of the enterprise, spoke about this with BMWG. According to him, in the first stage, the enterprise produces products which raw materials grown from its own gardens, where about 20 kinds of fruits are grown. But due to the increased demand, it was necessary to expand production. Accordingly, last year, the company received raw materials from local farmers. We started production in 2020, and from 2022 we entered the market directly. Currently, the products are sold in the chain hypermarket Carrefour and various stores. Last November, we purchased new dryers, and this year we are going to increase production by 200%, Gelutashvili says. Gelutashvili also notes that it's a challenge for them to compete with imported products on the market. The enterprise produces 10 types of dried fruit from black plum, apple, pear, and etc. The company Frutera has been operating on the market since 2022. Daewoo production company Taya, which has been operating on the market for 3 years, plans to add new products. As the founder of the company, Tamer Yanvarashvili, told BMWG, the production are too expensive for the local market. Accordingly, this year it's planned to produce affordable products from the Georgia population. Products are sold online both in local and international markets. We are represented on the Etsy platform. Our dioramas are successfully sold in several countries in America and Europe. The value of dioramas depends on its construction, design, and details. However, the average cost of the smallest diorama is 100 lari, says Yanvarashvili. According to her, they obtained a grant of 50,000 lari with the help of agency Enterprise Georgia. The founder of the production notes that in the future it's planned to make their own store and also a training center for children. Equi Winery, located in Sagurama, will make focus on the export this year. Givi Adeishvili, the founder of the company, declares that the winery produced a small amount of wine until 2021. At this stage, the winery produces 6 types of wine, including Kisi, Khikhui, Budushauri, Kahorimtswane, Shawitaukweri, and Chinebuli. At this stage, only 3 types of wines are sold, and in the next 2 months, 3 more types of wines will be added for sale. As the founder of the winery notes, they have just started working on the export, and their main focus will be on the European and US markets. Equi Winery was built in 2021 in Saguramo, where they began to produce Quevri wine. The company plans to increase production to 20,000 bottles this year. Equi Winery has already built the second wine wine cellar with an investment of up to 800,000 lari. Generally, 7 people are employed in the winemaking, although the workforce is increased to 15 people seasonally.
Last year, the biggest news was that Ripple, one of the world's leading technology companies, became the technology partner for the National Bank of Georgia's Digital Lari pilot project. The company is a leading cross-border payments network that helps financial institutions integrate blockchain technology and mint digital assets. Ripple's CBDC platform stands out for its ability to provide central banks, financial institutions, and governments with holistic end-to-end solutions. The company is currently conducting 5 pilot programs with different countries, governments, and central banks. Georgi Sakadze sat down with James Wallis, VP of Central Bank Engagements at Ripple, for a follow-up interview on Ripple NBG cooperation and more.
James, Mr. Wallis, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be back in Tbilisi. This is my 3rd visit. Third visit, yes.
So, you see some changes already here. Everything is changing dramatically everywhere, and I think Tbilisi is not the exemption.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's it's a beautiful country, a lot of culture, and I think the economy is moving in the right direction. So, to me, it's a very interesting place to visit for lots of different reasons. So, very happy to be here.
About the National Bank and your relations regarding the digital lari. Let me go the following way. What do you think? Why Ripple was chosen from the National Bank as a partner in this quite ambitious project?
Yeah, well, firstly, we're very excited and proud to have been selected by the National Bank. It was quite a long process. I think we started talking to the team over 2 years ago. So there's been quite a long and thoughtful process. We took the time to really understand what the objectives were of this Digital Lari project. And it's a pilot, so it's a...
Absolutely.
I would call it an advanced experiment on the way towards some real system. So, we took some time, and I think ultimately there's probably 2 or 3 reasons why, we were selected. Firstly is, ultimately we're a technology provider, and we have developed technology specifically for CBDC, using technology based on blockchain. That technology has been actually used for more than 10 years, so it's sort of lower risk from that perspective because it's been used. And then also we, as a company, Ripple is about 11 years old, which is not very old compared to the country of Georgia, but for a fintech, it's fairly well established, and we've been running payment systems globally for 10 years. And then I think there was just a good alignment, culturally. We shared the objectives, and I see the specific details of this project, that we have some experience, and hopefully we can demonstrate that with them. So a long answer, but a long process to get here.
Yeah, but at the same time, can I consider the above-mentioned 2 or 3 reasons why Ripple was chosen by National Bank of Georgia as advantages what Ripple brings to the table, to the Central Bank of Georgia?
Yeah, so I think the one is the technology. I mean, at the end of the day, we're the technology partner. So we have proven technology that has been used in 10 or more other countries to do similar sorts of pilots. And then again, I think it's our experience, right? The fact that we took the time to sit down with the bank, understand their objectives, and we put together a comprehensive package. So we're helping them with all aspects of the project. The technology is the center, obviously, but we're bringing our experiences to Georgia, which we're happy with.
Can we a bit evaluate some technical details of the Digital Lari, some specifications? And you have also mentioned about the blockchain system. My question is, it's going to be integrated, let me say so, on the existing blockchain, or you guys are thinking about some outstanding system in regards of Digital Lari?
Yeah, it's a great question. So basically, the technology that we're creating for the Digital Lari is a private blockchain, but it's based on the technology used in the public blockchain. So the public blockchain that we use is called the XRP Ledger. It's a publicly available open source blockchain technology. And what we do for each country we're working with, we create a new private version. So you can only use the blockchain if you are permissioned to do so. So we've got, the advantage of that is the XRP Ledger technology is proven. It has been processing billions of transactions. But central banks like to have things a little bit more private. So we have created a private version. So it's a little bit of a hybrid to answer your question.
But definitely it's absolutely independent platform which is specifically performed for each project where you evaluate.
Yes, yeah, exactly right.
At the same time, my next question goes to where do you place Digital Lari on spectrum between, I don't know, let's say Chinese project or USDT or please?
Yeah, so firstly I would say if you think about CBDC, there are wider projects I would call the category digital currency. So you mentioned USDT, that's really a stable coin. The Chinese digital yuan is a CBDC. So there's a very, very wide spectrum. If you think about countries where it's a central bank, that's a CBDC. Each country has quite different motivations, so it's difficult to do an exact comparison. I would say Georgia is taking I think a fairly ambitious approach because we have 5 different use cases under consideration. So, if you take some of the countries, they're just doing like one solution, which is replacing cash. With the Digital Lari, there are...
That's a similarity to replace the cash.
Yeah, it's a digital form of cash. Right,
yeah.
Exactly. But with this project, I think one of the distinctions about it is there's looking at tokenizing bonds. So retail consumers can get access to bond securities. Looking at tokenizing real estate. There's a payroll element to the pilot. And then there's an offline element. So this is when you have your mobile phone, if you have no internet connection, you can still make purchases. So I would say each country is different, but the thing I like about the project here is it's quite a wide range of use cases.
But at the same time, which country's pilot, Mr. Willis, is most similar or closest to Georgia's pilot project, let me say so? Or they are absolutely unique, each of them?
They're all unique. I would say, obviously there's 1 or 2 countries that have been doing pilots for longer. So in China, the pilot has been in existence longer. Many of the pilots you see in the press and the media are more basic. They're just what I would call a proof of concept as opposed to a pilot. So again, that's one of the things that we were excited about working with the National Bank here is they have a vision to go beyond experimentation. Obviously, you have to prove out the cases as you go, but that I think is a very positive distinction here.
But at the same time, during these 2 years of the piloting Digital Lari, can we already identify some advantages what Digital Lari might have or has already?
Yeah. So Digital Lari, by definition, is digital, right? Now, a lot of payment systems are electronic. So, the difference really with the Digital Lari is you can do things like instant settlement. So it's not just the Digital Lari, it's actually the system, the scheme that you put in place as well. So the ledger. So this ledger that will be used allows you to, if I send you, 100 Lari, you instantly get the money. So it's the same as if I give you cash. Traditional payment system, if you use a credit card or a check or some other system, there's a delay, right? It can be as many as 3 days. So you have this sort of instant settlement, which is really a big advantage. The other thing I would say is when you have truly digital money like that, you can start to think about different use cases. So if I just the basic use cases for digital CBDC are to replace cash, so we just discussed. The second one is really around interbank settlement, so wholesale payments, so a bank to another bank. But when you think about what the characteristics of the digital currency are, you can do things like what they call DeFi applications. You can do systems like the bond solution we talked about. It allows you to actually innovate and bring lots of new different applications that you can't do with traditional money.
Yeah. At the same time, what are the risks associated with the digital currencies?
That's a good question. You should probably also ask the National Bank their view on this question.
I promise.
I think there's a few things that to consider. Obviously, this is fairly early stage development, so anything that's new, you don't really know all the features until you tried it, so you have to prove it. But to me, it's. I think the biggest risk is actually not doing the project, right? Because I think it's inevitable that digital currencies will exist in every country eventually. It may be several years, but I think you want to be fairly early into the technology. So I think actually the risk is not to do it, right?
It's just timing.
I think timing is and if you think about, well, I often get asked the question, what would make a CBDC experiment successful or not? And I always say there are three dimensions to this. First dimension is you have to have the regulatory environment in place, right? So the laws of the land and so forth. That's the first important factor. The second one is obviously the technology, right? Technology has to work, it has to be safe, it has to be secure, has to be fast. But the third one, I think, and which I think is the most important one, is the ways in which the currency will get used. If you think about it, if you had digital lari on your phone, why would you use that instead of using, a credit card or cash, right? There has to be some benefit. So we have to prove out those benefits. And without those benefits, there's no reason to have a digital currency. Now, obviously, I think there are lots of benefits, and so does the MBG, but we have to prove that out.
Tell me more about smart contracts and their involvement in this regard. I followed some interviews and some public speeches of yours in this regards. Why they are so much important, and how can we evaluate that they're part of the process of digitalization, blockchain, and digital currencies as well?
Yeah, it's a very important topic.
Correct.
I actually usually use the term programmability. So it's a little bit broader. Smart contracts refers to a particular method of programming the money, but essentially it allows you to set certain parameters or conditions. So if this condition is met, then a payment is made automatically. So it allows you to, firstly, it allows you to automate processes, which enables them to be faster and less likely to have errors. And then secondly, it allows you to create these systems where there's, if you like, it can be faster and not so much human intervention. Let me give you an example, probably better. We recently did a project in Hong Kong with the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, which is the central bank in Hong Kong. And it was to tokenize real estate. So people have a property, you can tokenize that and represent that on the blockchain. And then in this particular project, people were able to release capital from their property in the form of a CBDC. It was all done through a smart contract process. So essentially, if I'm making up the numbers, but if there was $100,000 worth of equity at the house, the bank was able to pre-approve how much of that could be borrowed. And then when the individual says, yes, I want to apply for this, it all sort of happened automatically. Now, this was a pilot, so it wasn't real money, right? It was an example of how you can program capabilities into the monetary financial system, which is, I personally think, is the one of the most exciting things about digital currency is what you can do with it that you can't do easily with today's system.
At the same time, another question from me is, does the inception of digital currencies, let me say so, undermine the role of commercial banks? And I'm asking it in this regards of digital lari and commercial banks in Georgia, but I think your answer will be covering all commercial banks worldwide.
Yeah, this is I think one of the most interesting topics, because I would say 2 or 3 years ago, when CBDC was first being discussed, there was a consideration from the commercial banks that they thought maybe it would be a threat to their business, because they thought potentially if CBDC becomes very widely used, there might be more CBDC in the system that would then make it more difficult for them to lend money, because they have to have a certain amount of reserves. But I would say now the opposite has happened. Now the commercial banks now understand that CBDCs, digital currency like digital lari, will happen, and they realize that they are absolutely central to the success. And let me expand on that a little bit. So most CBDCs will get issued in what we call a two-tier system. So the central bank will mint, create the currency. And then they'll distribute, for retail users like you and me, we won't get our digital lari directly from MBG or from the Fed. We'll get it from our commercial bank or our retail bank. So the central bank then translates.
Becoming a part of the process.
Yes, they become part of the process, and they become two things, right? One, they are a user of CBDC for the wholesale example I mentioned, so the interbank settlement.
Beneficiaries and distributors both.
Right, and then, exactly, and then they're the operator for the retail. So, in fact, you can't have a successful CBDC without the commercial banks. And I think I personally have seen this change over the last maybe 18 months or 20 months or so, that the commercial banks are now not feeling threatened, and now they're embracing the idea, and they understand it's going to happen, and also there's opportunity for them for all these like programmable solutions, so they can potentially create new businesses using a CBDC.
At the same time, you mentioned about the piloting of the digital currencies worldwide. Can you specifically evaluate some geography or governments where these projects are definitely progressing, and at the same time, where do we stand here in Georgia?
Yeah, so there's a big spectrum, right? So there are countries that are doing what I would call basic research, and there are others that are more advanced. I think I'll give you another example. So one of the countries that we've been working with is Palau. It's a very small country.
Palau?
Palau, yeah, it's in the Pacific Ocean. Yeah. It's a very interesting case because they use the US dollar as their currency, and they do not have a central bank. So in this instance, it's actually the government issued a currency, and it's actually what's called a stable coin. So because there is no central bank, it's not a central bank digital currency. You can't.
It's USD, James?
It's
sort of.
It's a US dollar denominated stable coin. So one Palau stable coin is equal to $1, and it's been issued by the government. And the primary use case initially is as an alternative to cash. So in Palau, there are many islands, and it's a very cash economy. So people, if they want to send money from one island to another, they have to get on a boat, right? Now with a digital money, you can just use your phone and it's instant. So that we completed the first pilot, and the second phase of the pilot is due to start this year. Yeah, so very exciting. I'm very optimistic that here in Georgia, because so much work has already been done to think about this, but we also, on the other hand, we have a lot of work to go in the future.
What might be the next steps? And we do all understand that it's a pilot project, and we truly identify the role of the Ripple in this process. But at the same time, what might be the next steps?
Yeah. So, the reason I'm here in Georgia today is actually, meetings yesterday and today with the National Bank, planning the next step. So it's a really good question. So the current plan is really a two-phase project. So phase one, which is really starting now, is to take the overall program and to design the details of it. So when you think about the different use cases I mentioned, so for the case of the tokenized bonds, to work out what exactly does that mean, what sort of people will be involved in it, what is the sort of ecosystem. So this is really a planning phase that will take really from now until the middle of the year. And then from that point through probably for another maybe 7 or 8 months from then will be phase two, which is when we actually do the pilot. And then at the end of that phase, which would be sort of towards the middle of 2025, I can't predict the outcome, but I'm always an optimist. So if the things go well, then I think the NBG will have to make some decisions on what they want to do next. So they want to expand, do different use cases or so forth. So our role as a technology partner and bringing our experiences, we'll work in a sort of agile way with the National Bank. You discover things as you go on these journeys, but that's broadly the time frame. So the next few months planning, and then the following sort of 7 or 8 months is the real pilot.
Good. Thank you so much for your time for this interview. It was a very interesting journey through the digital world and digital currency world. Thank you so much, James.
Thank you. It was a real pleasure.
Pleasure was all mine. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Last week, Sturgeon Capital organized its Georgia Startup Investment Summit. This unique event, co-organized in partnership with Startup Connect and sponsored by the National Bank of Georgia, brought more than 100 investors, venture capital firms, and startups to Tbilisi. BMG's Business Evening host, Georgi Aroni, attended the two-day conference and prepared a coverage for the checkpoints.
Last week, Sturgeon Capital organized its Georgia Startup Investment Summit, leaving attendees with a mostly optimistic outlook about the state of innovation in Georgia. This event brought more than 100 visitors, venture capital firms, and startups to Tbilisi for 2 days of panels, discussions, and meetings. On the first day of the conference, Levan Ulijanashvili, newly appointed Consul General in San Francisco, gave the opening remarks to welcome the guests, while Sturgeon Capital presented its investment strategy, track record, and future plans for attendees. Sturgeon Capital is well known for its investments in Georgia. Back in the early 2000s, the UK investment firm provided crucial investment for the leading Georgian financial institutions, the Bank of Georgia and TBC.
Sturgeon Capital, we're an investment firm. We've managed around 300 million that have been investing in Central Asia and the Caucasus for nearly over a decade. We actually first invested in Georgia back in 2005 once we saw the proliferation of the financial services market here, and since then have transitioned to focusing more on technology. The reason why we have the event here is we believe Georgia is a talent hub, both for the country itself but for the broader region. We want to bring the spotlight to the country and bring the broader region and all our investors from the world to this country to see what the talent is here, the depth of the ecosystem here, and hopefully to be a catalyst and to really see Georgia becoming one of the leading technology ecosystems in the world.
Sturgeon have an extremely strong record as a successful venture capital company investing all around the world. They've already got a track record of investing in Georgia, and I think today's event is part of that far broader package of UK-Georgian collaboration in the fintech sector. The British Embassy here in Georgia has supported fintech weeks for the last couple of years. The fintech sector is growing rapidly in Georgia. We have, as a result of the UK's own direct involvement, we've supported around 10 companies to build joint ventures between the UK and Georgia. So this is a booming sector with huge amounts of potential. And I think today's event is a really good investment and will give a good push to all of that development.
Sturgeon is a very, very serious UK investment company. They have hundreds of millions in private equity investments, and this is their second venture fund. So the reason I wanted to engage with Sturgeon is that they are very sophisticated investors. They're very, very wise about understanding the trends. They're very good at investing in the right management teams, and they're the kind of quality VC that I've wanted to involve in Georgia. There are a lot of other folks around, maybe it's their first time fund, they're very enthusiastic, but they've never actually been through this. Sturgeon has actually been involved in Georgia for almost 20 years on public markets as well as the private equity side. So they're very, very knowledgeable, and I think drawing on this knowledge is very important.
Sturgeon Capital Georgia Startup Investment Summit was organized in partnership with Startup Connect and sponsored by the National Bank of Georgia, Georgia's Innovation and Technology Agency, Silk Bank, and TBC. The event was supported by the USAID Financial Innovation Program.
Startup Connect have involved because they're gathering here their LPs from different countries, but we also want to connect them with the Georgian startup ecosystem. So there are 15 venture capitalists and a bunch of other investors who are in town. We feel it's important for the business community to learn from them because venture capital is a very specific, kind of esoteric type of investment. And so having this international talent in Georgia is incredibly important.
While Sturgeon Capital's first Georgian investment came back in the early 2000s, there are 3 Georgian startups in Sturgeon's current portfolio: Payzy, Cargon, and Clippy. Some of the founders pitched their startups before the investors as a part of the conference.
Many venture funds market themselves as emerging market funds. But the reality is different. We have spoken to hundreds of funds. We have more than 20 investors, but out of probably majority of them, Sturgeon has been the one that really walks the walk and talks the talk and walks the walk. They have been very active investors in Central Asia and Caucasus. We are very proud that Sturgeon has been. We have been the first Georgian portfolio company for Sturgeon. Since then, Sturgeon has added 2 more amazing Georgian startups in the name of Clippy and Cargon. And this showcase has been an example of how active Sturgeon is and the work that Sturgeon is doing in these regions.
Today's event, which was organized by Sturgeon Capital, holds crucial importance for Georgian startups, and not only, actually for Georgian startup ecosystem as well. As we all know, Sturgeon Capital is a huge VC from UK, and they are providing alternative finances, funding basically to startups, which is of course crucial to every Georgian startup that is out there. What's more, they are giving us some very important feedback regarding the products that we are making, which is going to help us to scale globally.
Sturgeon Capital is a leading private equity and venture capital firm focused on emerging and frontier markets, particularly in the Caucasus, Central and South Asia, and the Middle East. They invest in companies that are solving key problems in these regions, such as financial inclusion, job creation, and digitalization.
On December 15, 2023, the National Bank of Georgia granted a digital banking license to Pave Bank Georgia. Pave Bank intends to operate as a digital bank to integrate financial products and link them with digital assets and programmable accounts. The bank aims to serve technology-driven companies. BMG's Business Evening host Georgi Aronia talked to Pave Bank's Chief Executive Officer Salim Danani about Pave Bank's goals in Georgia and beyond. Let's watch the interview.
Salim, hi. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss number 17th commercial bank in Georgia, Pave Bank. You've been recently granted the digital bank license from the National Bank of Georgia, so thank you very much. We're looking forward to discuss Pave Bank in more detail.
Gamarjaba, and thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to discuss what we're doing and the things we're trying to achieve for the Georgian market and also globally.
Salim, let's begin the interview with a broad question. I'd like to ask you, what is Pave Bank and what are its main competitive advantages?
You start with the easiest one first. I like that. Thank you. So, when we started to build the concept of Pave Bank, we looked at the global landscape. We looked at where is the direction of financial services. I believe that we're at a monumental shift in what financial services means to the world because of a few underlying technologies that are coming out and becoming more prevalent and more regulated. So I'll give you an example. Think of how you consume information today and how you consumed information before the smartphone. It was very different, even the internet. I think what we're seeing now is the evolution of money. And we looked at was a blockchain in the financial system, in a regulated way only, like so CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, for which Georgia is at the forefront of innovation. And we're seeing the likes of the European Central Bank and also the FCA in the UK also following suit, and Singapore, and you're seeing a lot of these changes happen. So we looked at this and said, how do we look at these monumental shifts that are taking place and really distill down the benefits that are going to be needed for retail customers, so mainly corporates and businesses. We're a business bank and very much focused on businesses, and how do we take these benefits and offer it and find a way to disseminate it out? So what does that actually mean? So so we're building a corporate bank, business banking. We want to bring these benefits out. Now, it means that we want to take these innovations and package them in a way that allow businesses to either save money more efficiently, be that through dollar-denominated assets, or be able to lari-denominated assets, euros essentially, as well, or be it because they want an easier way to send money abroad instead of taking 3 days and not knowing where your money is, to move it in 10 seconds. What that means is unlocking liquidity globally as well. And then we look at down the line, we'll look at credit, and we'll look at how do we really provide, I think risk assessment is going to evolve, and it's going to change dramatically. And different for all of these products, these big products that I've talked about, and these use cases, no two businesses are the same. And I think that a lot of the frustrations that we see is that you never get hyper customizability. It's never hyper personalized to each business, and that's okay. We understand that because it's not been cost effective, but we're seeing waves of technology, like with AI, for example, being integrated into financial services that will allow businesses, banks and financial services to be able to offer hyper customized solution to businesses. And I think that we want to take these broad technology trends, we're packaging them up in very digestible ways, and offering it to solve those three key pillars for SMEs and also businesses in Georgia and also globally.
So one of the aspects that PayBank offers to its customers is programmability. I'd like to ask you, what does that mean in concrete terms?
In concrete terms, your bank, we want to make the world's first smart bank. So what it means from a pure, let me start with a technology standpoint and let me talk about value, right? So I think we are seeing money turn into more software languages. So if you think of the partnership with, was it Ripple? If you look at SWIFT, if you look at RTGS, if you look at Global Layer 1, which is the regulated Layer 1 blockchain from the Monetary Authority of Singapore, we're seeing these Layer 1 like software languages on top of which money and value will be programmed. We want to allow either businesses that are very tech savvy or third parties building apps to allow facilitation of that level of programmability and which is basically customizability for products that matter to them. Let me give you an example. We spoke today to a business that wanted, embedded finance, and their problem was access to the APIs and the fact that they could not give them the right information, for example. And so they can, with PayBank, for example, you can go in and you can literally type in the API that you would like and it will generate it for you. Another example would be every business in Georgia has to submit monthly tax. Every business. And I'm sure that it's something that's needed. We require it, as a country, but it's not necessarily, it's an operational heavy task. How do we automate that? How do we make that simpler, better, easier for the businesses? Because all this fluff over here prevents the businesses from doing what their core business is. And so we want to make these things easier for them, be it by them automating that directly in the bank itself, or a third-party app, for example, that can be built to solve that for a wide number of businesses, right? So or it could be automated treasury management. Think of a business that's dealing, Georgia's a relatively small market comparably, and a lot of businesses are dealing regionally or globally, or and I think that they're operating in multiple different currencies, and their positions, their currency, and the position of their assets are not always efficient, because it's very operationally heavy to say, you know what, my payables are coming in dollar, my receivables are coming in dollars and euros and GBP, and now I have to, manage my salary and the payroll in Lari and some of my payables and also in Lari, but I also have, I need to manage all these currencies. And when is the best time to do it? Why can't we automate some of these treasury functions to work for businesses? And so this is what I mean about programmability. It's hyper customizability, and then it's about what specific tools will allow this. Will it be tech-savvy businesses putting in their own code, or third-party apps that are going to be used to build that into? And that's what we're bringing to the market in Georgia and also globally.
Salim, what is PayVbank's business model?
The lucky part of this answer is that it's the oldest business in the world. It's banking. I think banks are very much, they make the business model is very much dependent on net interest margin. And which is, the difference between the cost of money and the revenue generated from lending it out, or placing it into high quality liquid assets or or like interest bearing products. And on the other flip side is fee-based income. I think throughout the evolution of banking, we've seen like very archaic banks charge huge fees, and then we've seen, newer banks come in and say, well, okay, they came in and said, hey, we're gonna make it free. I don't think the free is the answer. I think those business models have retracted. I think for us, the way we look at I think the philosophical approach is the most important here. We want to bring technology to the forefront of how we build the bank and make it so efficient that we can be the best priced and delivering the most value for businesses in Georgia and also globally. I think that's our core proposition, and the model is the classical model, where we're very focused on net interest margin and fee-based income.
But at the same time, you are B2B business, right?
Yes, of course. I mean, we focus on businesses, SMEs, businesses, corporates, large businesses. We don't, this is the most, the economies are driven by their SMEs. Corporates can come in, but economies are dependent, and rightly so, of local businesses that are growing, hiring people, and contributing to the economic growth. And we need to help these businesses, and that's our mission. Our mission is to help these businesses, operate efficiently, have the best banking products in Georgia, but also at the same time help them go beyond Georgia's borders. How can we help these businesses look to a addressable market that is not 4 million, but 400 million? And I think that's what makes us really excited. And so, yes, to answer your question very short and succinctly, yes, B2B models, yes.
On December 15th, 2023, PayVbank was granted the digital banking license from the National Bank of Georgia. This day actually was the same day when Georgia was granted the EU candidacy status from the European Council. So, quite a coincidence. So I'd like to ask you about the process that PayVbank and your team underwent through with the National Bank of Georgia. What was it like?
It's a big question. Firstly, I couldn't believe the coincidence myself. I was really happy. It was two fantastic things that happened on the same day, and we were very happy about that. Been in financial services for I think 15 years now, if not more, and I've dealt with many regulators, and they all have good qualities and challenges in their own rights. NBG. When I first came to meet NBG over 12 months ago, I was always skeptical. Everyone says that they're a great regulator, and I was, you take everything with a pinch of salt, as they say. Honestly, I was very pleasantly surprised, and this is not just because we're on public television. I really mean that. I think that regulations are important. Regulators that push the needle on what the best regulation is, but in the right way that is quite conservative in terms of measuring risk. That's what we found, the right balance, and I really believe that they're almost like a startup regulator, right? In the best possible sense, they're willing to listen to new business models, put in, and I believe that you're seeing that with the digital banking licenses, not for us, I mean for the whole country, right? And we're seeing that with the Open Banking Sandbox, we're seeing that with the CBDC project. So I think on a general basis, it's a very forward-thinking regulator, and it's all under one roof, which is very good. So it's easy to have those conversations, and everyone there is actually quite, extremely skilled at what they do. On specifically on our process, I think it was very good. It was very fair. It was very detailed, which is what we expect. I think that you can't have a simple process. If it's too simple, you don't have credibility. And so you need to have a balance. You need it to be efficient from a capital allocation perspective in terms of how much time are we spending and resource allocation, how much time are we spending to get this license and what does it allow us to do. But at the same time, if it's not without the right oversight or without the right due diligence, then it doesn't work on the credibility side. So I think the balance was very much struck, and I really have a lot of respect for the National Bank of Georgia for doing this with all the participants and generally in the market as well.
Salim, as you just mentioned, you have 15 years of experience in the financial sector. This includes Singapore, Malaysia, big economically strong countries. But then you decided to launch a new bank in Georgia. Why?
Georgia is a very unique market. It is very stable. I think from an economic standpoint, you have a very stable financial system. There is a lot of integration. We're coming, as we move into the EU with the candidacy status, and I'm sure in the next 3 to 4 years we'll continue to see harmonization of policies and regulations as well. For me, the government and the forward thinking generally of the whole establishment as a whole, without generally speaking, all moving forward, all trying to be as innovative was very important to us as well. And that drive and that push, along with a strong civic society, to us is an ideal place to base our commercial operations. We look for stability, as every business would do. That's the first thing. I think secondly, geopolitically, Georgia is in a very unique place. It is sitting at the crossroads of the middle trade corridor. I believe we'll start seeing more international businesses that want to trade with the EU bloc, probably find themselves being based here as transport links continue to improve. I think these present very big opportunities, not only for Georgian businesses, for the Georgian population, but also as these key elements develop over the next let's say 5-10 years, the financial infrastructure needs to be there. And so we see, if I just reiterate, the harmonization of policy, the stability, and the actual potential as we look at the FTAs, the free trade agreements with Europe and with China and the East, and bridging these two huge regions. I think Georgia can play a very pivotal role, and we see that as a very big opportunity over the next 10, 20, 50 years as we look forward.
Salim, let's move to yet another very important topic, which includes the people who are going to execute the vision that you have for PAVE Bank. Who are these people? Who are your co-founders, and what background do they have?
Yeah, absolutely. The business is built with its people. And I think that I share I have a couple philosophies that are very close to me in terms of how we operate a business, and we've done some things right that we want to continue doing, some things wrong in the previous businesses that we want to kind of reiterate on, and this is the beauty of building businesses. One of the things that we look for is the best talent, no exceptions, no compromise, best talent. But the best talent has to have the right work culture and the work ethic, and I think that for us is extremely important. And we are continuously surprised with the level of talent that we find in Georgia, and we continue to see, and we want to play a part in upskilling and pushing people to think globally and think internationally, and that's how we plan to grow our biggest operational base in Georgia. My co-founders, fantastic. So there's Simon Vance Kalina. He was at Citibank, at Vocalink. He was one of the early team members of Starling Bank in the UK. Then went to be a part of the founding team of Monzo Bank, also in the UK. We worked together for a brief stint after that as well. But really understands how to build a bank from the ground up, and that's a very unique skill. And I think there's probably maybe 100 people in the world that have probably done this before, recently in recent years. And then Dimitri, a seasoned banker, worked for Ferratum, which is DAX listed, then went to Vietnam to work for VP Bank, and really built out a lot of fintechs and how the bank interacted with fintechs. And we worked together for about 4 years in Singapore as well. And I think that bringing the breadth of the founders and really complement each other, which is really great. And then the team. We have managed to find the right real leaders in product and compliance and commercial throughout our business, and tech leaders in our business. And so we're really pleasantly surprised, not that we had any doubt, but really surprised with the level of talent and the depth of talent in the market as well. And we hope to play a contributing part in helping even grow that as much as we can going forward.
Salim, how many employees do you have at this moment in time at Pave Bank?
We've got 13 people in Georgia, part of our team, and they range from technology, product, on the compliance side and the AML side as well, and the risk side, where we found a fantastic talent pool, as I mentioned before. I think that the nature of businesses and the way they grow with the tools that are available have changed, have fundamentally shifted. If you look at AI, as an example, fundamentally shifted how businesses operate and the efficiencies within which they can operate. Now, we'll obviously continue to hire, and we have really ambitious growth plans for how we plan to scale the teams, but we want highly skilled teams that can use these technologies and then really add to that, I would say, productivity and GDP contribution going forward, which I think is a really big paradigm shift that is in Georgia's advantage as well, going back to the previous point that we were talking about.
The goals you just mentioned are always aligned with the vision that usually the co-founders or the executive team have for the company. In terms of Pave Bank, what is the vision for the future?
We want to change the way all businesses interact with their bank around the world. We believe that the nature of money will change, and as the nature of money and value changes, we want to be the venue where a lot of these interactions take place. And I believe it's an ambitious vision, but I believe it's achievable. And I think that it takes time. Businesses, there are some businesses you can build a software business and you can build it overnight. I think there are some businesses that are built more slowly, and for good reason. You have prudential oversight, you have a responsibility to the public to operate responsibly and with stability. It's depositors that we're talking about, and we see this as I mentioned, we see this as a 10, 15, 20-year vision. And the good thing about it now, is really funny, because I talk about programmability of banking and programmability of assets and value and money, and it was often like a bit of an esoteric term. People will look at me partially like they're being nice and like they're listening, they understand exactly what I'm saying. I think two things have happened. One, I think I've gotten a bit better at articulating what we're doing. The second thing that I think has happened is, the large banks and large financial institutions have also started bringing that, there was a nomenclature and there was a verbiage into the space. So, we talked about JP Morgan Onyx and programmable payments. They talked about Citibank doing something similar too. So I think we are seeing the fruition of these layers that enable us to achieve our vision and really bring that to a large-scale number of businesses as well, globally.
Salim, to summarize the interview in a way, I'd like to ask you the question about the procedure that's going to happen next. So what should customers expect from Pave Bank, and what is the possible time frame for all of this?
Yeah. So as per the licensing framework, we have up to 7 months to go live. Like everything, we operate on a timeline of yesterday. That's usually how startups will probably operate. We want to go very fast. We're expecting, late Q1 or early Q2 to really start rolling out the early phases. I think when you roll out a business, when you start a business, especially in the tech space, you'll always see iterations. You'll see very quick iterations in the early days. So we'll really roll out in a very controlled approach to make sure that we're giving the best value and the best experience to all of our business customers. We expect to start off with our basic set of products around payments, around deposit accounts, multiple currencies, and we hope to very quickly expand from there in terms of multi-asset and perhaps lending and loans that down the line as well. But these are things will take time, and we are actively working with our first set of customers to really make sure that we're hitting the chords with the value they want to see with the bank as well, within the constraints of our products, of course, as well. So you expect to see it very soon. You expect to see a very unique proposition in the market, and we're all very excited about it, on our side at least.
Salim, thank you very much for your time and for the interview. We wish you good luck to you personally and Pave Bank, of course.
Didi Madlova, thank you very much to you. Thanks for having me, and it's been a pleasure to have this conversation. Thank you.
In 2023, the population of Georgia spent 788 million lari for mobile communication, which was 91 million lari, or 13% more compared to the same period of the previous year. The growth of companies' revenues is due to the increased number of subscribers in the country. As of October, there are 5,470,196 active subscribers in the country, which is 92,000 more than in 2022. The number of subscribers increased the most for Silknet in 2023, which had more than 64,000 subscribers. Makti ranked the second with the increase of subscribers, which added 33,000 users, while the number of subscribers of Selfie decreased by 17,000. Along with the increased number of users, the average revenue per subscriber has also increased. Makti subscriber pays around 15 lari per month, 57 tetri increase. Silknet subscriber around 13 lari, which is 1 tetri increase, and Selfie subscriber around 9 lari, which is also 1 tetri increase. According to a report published by the Communications Commission, the revenue of mobile operators is becoming less and less dependent on making voice calls. Mobile internet usage has increased. In October 2023, subscribers of mobile operators used 51,469 terabytes of the internet, which was an annual increase of 23%. Anna Nakashidze, Chief Executive Officer of Azer Telecom, participated in the keynote panel of the Capacity Middle East event held last week in Dubai. The panel discussions, entitled "Is the Current Road Diversity Restructuring the Middle East Cable Map?" also attracted executives from various companies within the telecommunications industry. Panel discussions evolved around increasing demand for diversity and resilience of international connectivity, especially as reliance on internet resources becomes more important with artificial intelligence and the booming connectivity technologies. As global and regional circumstances, along with emerging technologies, impact on internet geography, the Middle East and neighboring regions look for and explore opportunities within new corridors and geographies to connect. South Caucasus, or Middle Corridor, becomes more important and actual for the Middle East traffic connectivity than ever. Deployment of new projects in the region with increased scale would enable higher efficiency, thus increasing traction to the road, emphasized Anna Nakashidze. Capacity Middle East is one of the significant global events, attracting over 2,600 ICT leaders from the Middle East and beyond. The event unites decision makers from the carrier, cloud, content, software, equipment, data center, and other industries. Azer Telecom is a leading wholesale telecommunications player in Azerbaijan and is part of the telecom group of the Nexol Holding. And that's all for today. We'll meet next Sunday. Before that, of course, check us out on BM.G for more news and outlook on business and economics in Georgia and beyond. Take care.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.